All right, we are live for the Thursday edition of the Morning Check-In. And as always, looking forward to connecting, sharing my 2 cents on a variety of subject matter. And today I've compiled a large list of just not so good indicators, a lot of charts that don't lie, and what that actually means on the broader side of things. But we're going to talk about that and a lot of other things. But it's going to be a good morning. So welcome to those who are checking in with me. Let me know where you're watching from in the chat or in the comment section, whatever it is, wherever you're watching from. Definitely love to connect with you directly. I'd like to know how far of a reach this show has, just because we're all experiencing the same thing. You know, more debt, death, debasement, deficits, you name it, the big D's, as I call them. And not to say that, in a joking manner, but it's just reality. But we're facing a lot of things that, once again, big problems with no obvious solutions. And so my goal is just to highlight stories that you won't hear from the mainstream media and give it to you with a little bit of a twist to it. And of course, to offer some encouragement along the way, because everything in its essence is spiritual in nature. And we're having to just live this out in the natural. But in the meantime, for those who are checking in, let me know where you're watching from. As I mentioned, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an update or anything like that. And when I put out these videos, let me get my button situated here. I'm trying to do too much at one time, but bear with me, good people. And let me just keep it moving here. So yeah, for those who are new, never know who might be new, hit the bell, hit the check, wherever you're watching from. Make sure you subscribe, plug in. And as always, if you find anything of value here, feel free, screen capture it, share the video, link or whatever, so people can get an alternative spin on what's happening out here, just because the average Joe, of course, won't hear this from the mainstream media. So primary stories I want to touch on today, sweet and simple. We're going to get right to it. It has a lot to do with, as you see on this chart behind me here, we have 60% of U.S. counties had declining home values. That's not a good thing. Personal consumption is changing fast. Therefore, people are not spending for some reason. Then we got U.S. GDP is actually lower than anticipated. You know what that means. And also we have the Dixie. And there's a forecast that is at 97 now. It's going to go a lot lower than that. That is definitely not good. And of course, we have Donald Trump out here continue to rant and put pressure on Donald Trump or Powell, as if Powell can do anything about it other than cut to print to further debase the very currency that we're so dependent upon in this country. And then last story I want to touch on as to how supposedly Iran spilled the beans on a alleged attack that would have taken place on behalf of the nation of Israel within the U.S. So lots of things to touch on in this live stream here. So it's going to be a good one. And for those, I want to make sure that you stay plugged in. So definitely stick around with me. But before we move further, I want to just focus on the obvious stuff we're experiencing. I want to touch on some more important stuff, which happens to be the government, the real government, the government that lies ahead. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. It's coming, and that is the government, and I'm referring to the kingdom of God. And so this is June 6th. It says, you need this government. Let me zoom in here so you can see what I see. And it's a piece of scripture from Daniel. It says, I was watching in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man coming with the clouds of heaven. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away. Daniel 7:13 and 14. New King James, abbreviated a little bit, chopped out a little bit there to give you the substance. And then it goes on to say, everyone's talking about a one world government, but did you know God already promised one? Not one ruled by man, but one ruled by the Son of Man. Daniel saw it first, a divine king coming in glory, receiving authority from the Ancient of Days. It's not a president, it's not a dictator, but a king, one whose dominion covers every nation, tribe, and tongue. It says Jesus confirmed it in Matthew 28:18 by saying, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. He didn't just die to save you. He died to rule for you and on your behalf and through you to rule the earth. This isn't just about politics. It's about righteous governance, a true government that actually knows how to get things done. A king who brings peace, something you can't get from a two-party political system. That's the good news of today, my friends. He's coming soon, not to take sides, but to take over. Closing prayer is, Father, let your everlasting government come and let the rule of your Son be established in me today. In Jesus' mighty name, amen and amen. And as always, for those who that word resonates with, definitely Let me get an amen in the chat, the comment, or whatever, where you're watching from. Definitely would love to, be of encouragement to others, just because that's the whole point in, being a blessing to help other people in this day and age. Okay, so let's get into it real quick. So I'm going to look at some market activity real quick, look at some figures, look at some numbers, make some recommendations, or not recommendations, but just offer some strategies. Once again, none of this is financial advice. This is all just one man's opinion based upon all the data I take in, process it, filter it, and I help share it in a more easier format. So everything here, take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research, my good people. But let's jump into this current activity. So as always, because the show is called Rethinking the Dollar, it's all about helping people understand that this is not the only form of a thing known as a dollar. There's other things out there. And of course, gold and silver has always been, will always be a preserving mechanism for people to protect themselves against government malfeasance, as I'm going to show you. But anyway, we got gold right now, 33.21, silver 36.51. We got platinum about to cross that 1,400 mark. And so definitely there's a race to get platinum. I wonder what's happening. Palladium is also catching up. Oil is up, copper's up. So anything real and from the earth that God gave us to have dominion over is, obviously doing quite well right now. But those instruments and all the products created off those instruments, comes with a lot of risk, good people. And of course, you know that. Okay, let's keep it going. So out of just curiosity, I just want to show, because I'm, really trying to broaden my investment strategy, if I can put it that way. And so I'm paying attention to a variety of things, of which most of it I won't really talk about other than just the obvious. But as you can see on the chart right here, let me get myself out the way. This is platinum over the last, going back to 2020. And so literally right here, we can see that something is occurring. And could it be the fact that it is a industrial metal that is needed along with the rare metals? And on top of that, it is a lot more scarce than the preferred medium of exchange, which happens to be gold. And of course, silver is, when it pops, it's all game, set, and match. But you guys know that already. All right, so let's keep it moving. We got lots of things to touch on. As always, for those who want to plug in and get more, I want to encourage you to, everything I'm going to talk about for the most part can be filed here at rtd.news. Click the link in the description, take you right here, and you'll be up to snuff as to what's going on, good people. And so lots of articles here. I'm going to thumb through them as best I can, get to the primary articles, and we'll go from there. But before I do that, let me just make sure I offer some possible strategies for people to consider. And so, as always, for those who might be new to the game, you never know, got to make sure I give people some strategies and things to consider. So right here we have 24 karat gold. This is a mini gold bar, and I encourage people, if you have interest, take a look into it. Once again, it's one thing that I try to offer to the community. And so here you go, right here, the smallest form. But 24 karat gold grain available to those who want it. Links in the description. Feel free to check it out. And then next, I want to continue to remind people of platinum. And so right now on the screen, you see the 1 gram platinum. 1 gram platinum. It is also available as well for those who want to redeem some of these notes here and get into something tangible. And then, of course, last, I want to make sure people understand that there is an option as well when it comes to the gold backs. And so for those who want to get their weight up, physical weight, the different forms, different size, different denominations, 24 karat gold, those are available as well. Links in the description, or just go to buygoldnotes.com. Just a way to diversify and to protect and hedge against all the stuff I'm about to talk about, my good friends. Because one thing is true, things that are considered stores of wealth will appreciate over time as we get through this current reset that we're in. And so hopefully by being proactive, you can minimize the risk. Can't avoid it, but you can minimize the impact that it will have in all of our lives. And so just look at history. Every nation has gone through a currency crisis. There's no way you get out, you get out of bed, you put your 2 feet, you walk out your door, and you're not impacted in some form or fashion by the central banking and the government's issues that they create on purpose. Okay, but let's get into some primary stories, my good people. Let's get to the page. Let's get back to the page here. Let me get back to my page here. Okay, so let's just zoom in here. I'm going to go one by one. We're going to walk our way through it. So the housing downturn. This is something I want to touch on as well. The housing downturn is broadening. And so, this is something that I'm hearing more and more people about. I don't really cover real estate that much just because I know that's just one of many other uh, vehicles that people use as investment strategies. And as I mentioned throughout the last several live streams, that because we're in a new upside turned inside out reality, nothing will make sense. And everything that used to work may not work right now because of the distortions in all the indicators and everything in between. So what has always been traditionally a way of saving in the form of purchasing a house, once again, I think more than enough people have been lured into them to a point where, once again, it's only as valuable as an investment as there are people willing and able to afford to purchase it from you when you need to get rid of it, because the house is not too liquid. You can't just put it on the market and it's going tomorrow. And hence the problem. We're having more and more of an inventory uptick and very few people actually able to get out from their houses. So just to give you more insight into this article here. So 60% of U.S. counties had declining home values in May. And so once again, as you can see over my shoulder here, we're getting this uptick here. So we're in territories that we haven't seen since the great financial crises. And these are just early indicators. And the reason I believe this is something that the powers that be are paying attention to is because they're now talking about allowing crypto holders to use their portfolios as collateral for the housing. So another way of trying to provide a lifeline for the housing market by letting early bag holders purchase real estate, creating another fake illusion of market demand, because you got people willing to probably put some cryptocurrency down for mortgages and stuff like that for rental purposes or whatever. But once again, it's no coincidence the housing market is having issues, and now we got the FHA, Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac and all them companies talking about, oh, we might accept crypto for collateral. Okay, really? But give you a little windfall of what this is all about. Let me move myself out the way here, and I will read just some details here. It says the housing is broadening. The housing downturn is broadening, with over 60% of U.S. counties experiencing monthly home value declines. That's one of the highest percentages going back almost 3 decades. The only other 2 times in the last 3 decades when this many counties reported a monthly drop, according to Zillow, were 2022 and 28 through 2012. And we all know what those events were about. They were a crisis. They were a national, borderline systemic event that was taking place. And if we're seeing similar patterns, would that give us a hint that we're also perhaps experiencing a systemic type of an event unfolding? We're either at the beginning phases, early phases, or in the middle. But once again, because of the mainstream narrative, oh, economy's great, everything is fine, yeah, while Donald Trump is pressing Powell to cut. Okay, so clearly, yeah. It says this indicates that the U.S. housing correction is no longer just a Texas and Florida downturn. In fact, over 30 states showed a monthly contraction in May of 2025, according to a Zillow report. So what remains to be seen is if this budding correction is more like the flash correction in 2022 when mortgages rates spiked, or the extended housing downturn that took place in 07 through 12. So that, my friends, a little bit of something right there on the housing market there. And so we're going to find out more about how this plays out, because once again, there's not much of a solution to this problem here. And so what better way to cover it up other than, let me move myself back over here, where it says Fannie and Freddie Mac ordered to consider crypto as an asset when buying mortgages. So just a little snippet as to what this is. But Fannie Freddie Mac, this is like, so not a coincidence, strategic. They can't let the primary sectors that have been the bedrock of our economy when it comes to investments, which are housing, your portfolios, stocks and bonds, and our currency. They can't let those things slip and sink, because how do you maintain the facade that everything is going to be fine? And so just real quick here, give you some nuts and bolts. It says here, the head of the federal government agency that oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac wants the mortgage giant to consider accepting home buyers' cryptocurrency holdings in their criteria for buying mortgages from banks. So I mentioned this years ago, but I'll just reiterate this. Because the banking crisis that is brewing due to a higher interest rate environment, I referenced and mentioned how it's so obvious how there was going to be a big push for deregulating the crypto space so that the banks could participate, so that they can create products and services off of it. And here we are now, over the last year, it is coming to fruition when, as I mentioned yesterday, when Jerome Powell mentioned about we need more regulatory clarity on cryptos for banks. And okay, so protect the banks, let them get into crypto. Protect the housing, let the housing get into crypto. What else? This is another side note, but I once again, I can't, whatever. So one of the, let me see if I can find it. One of the ladies that's in part of the federal pension, the Federal Retirement Association, whatever, she threw out something like, it was 20, 30, 40, it was some large trillions. She's now advocating for those overseers of retirements for our country, a variety of sectors, for them to get involved in Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. So in order to prop up retirements, you need funnels for all the liquidity that's coming. Why not give the guys that, crypto can help save all of these sectors or help prolong them? So would anybody not think that crypto was intentionally created by Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin, and here we are now? It's being used as a lifeline, as a way to prop up the current paradigm that's faltering right now as we speak. Coincidence? Okay, whatever. And so, once again, just highlighting how, housing market in trouble. Here come crypto to save the day. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm sure that catches everybody by surprise. Okay, let's keep it going. But there's more. Let me just give you some more. At the same time, we have China unloading treasuries at record pace, all as a result of Donald Trump going back to his first term. And so here we have just a little highlight. China is dumping U.S. treasuries and buying gold at record levels. And so while the Western Hemisphere, our Congress, our government, and all this Genius Act and the Bitcoin Bill Act and all these digital stuff that our government is more than excited to try to bring into the forefront, nobody in our Congress talks about gold, silver, because they can't. So it's obvious we can see who's trying to steer all this, while other nations out east don't mind making moves when it comes to weight. And so let me just, okay, this is a side note. I share something in the Telegram. Let me grab the article here, because you got to follow where the real funds are flowing. And this is off the cuff, but let me grab this article here, because another indication of where other nations would prefer to be rather than where they're being steered. So let me just share this headline real quick. It says, China opens the first offshore gold vault in Hong Kong. And so this is the Shanghai Gold Exchange has expanded operations from mainland China now into Hong Kong, which has always been like a hub. But now you got China, mainland, and Hong Kong. And it's good to say the Shanghai Gold Exchange, which deals in physical, redeemable metal, is going to spread further. Mark my words. They're going to end up setting up a vault or some type of actual operations within the Middle East pretty soon if they haven't already. But this is just more indication as to what other nations are doing while we're talking about crypto and protecting mortgages. But give you an idea of what I'm referring to here. Let's just jump right into it. I'll show it on the screen here. So here we got U.S. Treasury holdings and gold reserves and percentage of total Chinese foreign reserves since 2011 to today. And as we see here, this is where the Treasury holdings at. And that up there, my friends, is where the gold actually is flowing. So look how wide that gap is. But it started, here's the turning point right here. So going back to the moment when all the extra excess QE type policies and packages and stimmy checks and all the, was it 6 or 7 trillion created as a result of the health situation, is when it became noticeable that one was better than the other. But going back here to the very top, where we right here at this hump right here, that was where 2018-ish, when due to Donald Trump's loud and just obnoxious mouth, bashing China, blaming China, China. They like, well, we can't afford to be bashed this much. Let's just stop supporting their debt habits and let's sell what we have. And so here you see, since 2018, they've been unloading ever since. And so no one wants to be left holding the bag of things that cannot be repaid. That's just becoming quite obvious now. So if you didn't know, now you know. And it doesn't stop there. Let me just keep this going here. So once again, like just highlighting real events based upon graphs, stats, which gives facts as to what's happening. And so let me just keep it moving. Let me get into some other things here. Let me go back. Let me close some windows here. Give me a second here. So here we have the personal consumption. So this is what's happening on Main Street with the average Joe and Jane. And so literally from that far side over there, we had a big green bar, which shows an abnormal range of consumption where people are actually spending as a result of the extreme red at the very bottom where people were saving up the wazoo. And all those bars, let me just zoom in here. All these bars right here, all these green bars right here, all these green bars are a result of stimmy checks. This is the stimulus era. And so since then, having to work for yours, people have been like, maybe I need it, maybe I don't. But you see these little boop, these little boops, you know what I'm saying? Every so often you see a little boop. And my suggestion, my thought would probably be those boops are probably like some type of, I would say refund check type of thing. But it's something where people feel like they got some extra. So it's a boop. Or once again, these stats, coming from primary sources could be a lie. But one thing you can't lie about these anomalies and this big drop in red and this big boy in green. But here we are now. It's smaller than what we've witnessed over the last 5 years since the STEMI era. So basically it's saying people do not feel comfortable and confident in just spending willy-nilly. And so give you some insight here we have. Let me read a little bit here. It says, let me get myself out of the way here so I can read it. It says U.S. consumer spending is weakest in years. U.S. Q1 2020 GDP was revised down to negative 0.5 from negative 2. First contraction since Q1 2022. Personal consumption revised lower by 1.2 percentage points in the last two revisions to plus 0.5, the lowest print since the 2020 crisis. And so not only do we have people spending less, our economy as a whole has just contracted. And so we know what happened. Let me share with it. We know what happened when GDP corrected. Let me get myself out the equation here. Give me 1 second here. Move myself out the way here. So here we got information that's provided. And if you zoom in here, according to the indicators for last umpteen decades, two consecutive contractions equates to a recession, but they skipped that over to the far right during the Biden era and said, no, that's not the case anymore because the economy's booming. Okay, hence now it remains somewhat up in the 2 to 2.5 range on average. And so now, what a coincidence. The beginning of Donald Trump's presidency, they let the truth come out. And it go from 2 down to negative. And so here's a question. What will Trump do? Because Trump is going to have to talk his way out of this one if Jerome Powell doesn't cut. So with this contraction here of the so-called economic vibrance that our economy is supposed to be experiencing, it's becoming obvious that they're not intentionally lying for Trump the way they did for Biden. And so literally Trump's going to have to talk his way out of this one by doing something off the cuff to juice the markets while he waits for Jerome Powell to cut. Because of his desire to cut is for multiple reasons, but it's also because he don't want to be the one that they redefine what a recession means with its 2 contracting quarters. So literally at the end of summer, when this boy goes even lower, that'll be recession time. You better believe the lamestream media gonna say, oh, we had the first recession since the crisis. It's always under Trump's watch that the economy does bad, whatever. But as I've been pointing out before, it don't matter who's in office. We get the same thing every time. We need more currency is what it's really telling us. And so that's just what it is. And as a result of this, you got people like, technical analysts projecting where the Dixie, aka the trade-weighted dollar version of our currency, from an international standpoint, it too, as a result of all this tariff talk, the trade war, military involvement, I don't know, you name it, whatever's associated with Trump, it can be seen as a problem to the legacy system. And so here we are now. It's at 97 and it's going lower. And so this analyst here mentioned that based upon his little chart type TA stuff, he said the Dixie broke support at 97.5. The next lower support is 93.27. And so that's according to his little forecast here. And so as you can see, 93.27 is right here. And so if this thing goes any lower, this is where he thinks it's going to go. And the question is, what then? I can tell you what then. We're going to see these two things here on top of everything else I mentioned earlier shoot up. And so literally gold could probably touch, it could probably shoot up to 4,000. And for sure silver going to shoot through 40. So that's something we never really seen before, or I have never seen in my days of actually paying attention. And so once again, the weaker the dollar, something else got to get stronger, because the weaker dollar meaning people are dumping and getting something else. And of course we all know where flight to safety is. So that's just that. Okay, keep it moving. And so hence the idea of why Jerome Powell is being painted as a villain when it comes to Donald Trump. And so now if it's not becoming obvious, or he continues to harp on Powell, Donald Trump made quotes yesterday, called him stupid, whatever. He's going every day, just publicly bash him, trying to embarrass him. He himself is trying to set the narrative as to why the economy, is not where it should be, because we got these slow-moving Federal Reserve chairman who's behind the curve. Inflation's, and Trump like, inflation's down, the economy's booming, trade, the Doge is bringing in money, and all these things that really are irrelevant. And that's why he should have been cut. Cut. Look back at history books. The theme was going to be, they cut too late. If they had cut sooner, the economy wouldn't have crashed. So it's the late cut that led to the crash. That's going to try to paint the late cut leading to the crash, when actually we were already crashing. And if the cut had come sooner, they would have literally drove the economy off the cliff, because all a cut will do is create more of these. And if you're not close to the monetary spigot, you're going to be the last one to get these. Therefore, what you get going to purchase less. That's how this is working. But anyway, so he's talking about now shopping around, looking for his next drone, looking for the next Fed chair, someone that's more in alignment with what he wants, which is to basically go to NERP and just reinflate the monetary base and just give the illusion of a wealth boom. And before his presidency, I coined a term that is still on track. Let me just get my graphic so I can show you what that is, because you never know who might be new here. But let me share with you what is something that he wants to be known for, because it'll make him look good while also enriching those around him. Because literally you have his economic advisors and team speaking into his ear. They're telling him what to do on behalf of what they're trying to accomplish, not because they're trying to save anything, because once again, you can't save. Let me just show you what you can't save. And this is why every day I'm probably going to use this chart, because once again, nothing that can be suggested or recommended can save and pay back this plus whatever we owe, because official federal spending is 7.1 trillion. And if I just zoom out here, as you can see, the budget deficit is not stopping either. It's 2 trillion. This means we're going to spend way more than we ever can create in value to actually receive back. So they have to inflate us out of this mess. Therefore, that is the solution. More currency debasement. And that's all a part of the fact that they're going to do it while trying to make people believe that there will be a MAGA wealth effect. And that MAGA wealth effect is steering everybody towards this digital stuff by using that middle thing, trying to keep people away from that far side of the screen over here. So one thing they don't want people to get wind of is that true money, currency, comes from the United States Mint. And it's these items here, which were constitutionally supposed to be what was used in our country. And so, long as people don't know that this is where they should be heading, he's going to do everything he can to steer people towards this. And he's going to use these. And so that, my friend, that is monetary literacy 101 for today. But anyway, there's other stories I could touch on, but you guys get the gist of everything. So for those who want more, I could just scump, this is our at the news site. But Federal Reserve has no alternative but to wait and see. We got amid tensions with Powell, Donald Trump considers early Fed chair. We got U.S. futures rise amid FOMO. We got New York City becomes a new socialist paradise. The new mayor there. I'm hearing all types of stuff that could come fruition. Hollowed out the second half of 2025. Inventory of new single-family homes for sale hits the highest. There's more homes available than there are buyers. It will be a problem. Trump administration moves to count crypto as federal mortgage assets. So it goes on and on and on. So once again, if you guys want to get the full story from a variety of viewpoints, feel free to click on the rtd.news. Information is there. Once again, just share my 2 cents, trying to make sense of what will not be told to you from the mainstream media because they can't tell you the truth. Because they tell you the truth, game be over with. And the goal is to keep you dumb, distracted, and tension diverted on some other things. But once again, I'm going to shoot it straight. Once again, these things here are at the heart of the problem because mankind lacks a true governance model that works on behalf of the people. And that's why there's one coming. Be blessed, be safe. Shalom. Holla.